Country Director of World Food Program, the world's largest humanitarian agency that is fighting hunger. After Super Typhoon Yolanda hit Eastern Visayas, WFP was at the forefront of trying to help survivors. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mr. Agarwal.
Magandang umaga to everybody here, Senator Poe, Secretary Soliman, its colleagues, friends, NGOs. It's a great pleasure and an honor for the World Food Program to be part of this process. I won't get into the details of Haiyan because it would not come anywhere to doing justice in the way that Secretary Soliman just did. I'd just like to say that it was an opportunity for all of us to reflect on what it is. And I think the big message coming out of Secretary Soliman's intervention earlier was that we need to concentrate on preparedness. If we are prepared, we can reduce, we can mitigate, we unfortunately can't prevent. The Mother Nature is way stronger than all of us, but we can work towards it. I'd like to begin on a bigger issue, a little bit broadening the base, and we're talking about hunger and poverty. So I'd like to begin with a reflection, if you will allow me. And that reflection being, the malnourished of today will be the poor of tomorrow. No nation can afford to waste its main resource, its human capital. Having said that, I'd like to turn our attention to a little bit some of the global figures that you will see, and you probably have. They're up there, and I won't repeat them. But 805 million people. Yeah, that's a huge number. We're more than 7 billion, so 805 million people go hungry. If we look at the cost of undernutrition, it's 1.4 trillion. Do we even understand these numbers? Yeah. I was told once to explain a billion, and I thought about that for a long time. How do I explain a billion? It's only got 9 zeros. Yeah, it's a very large number. And then I said, my son was 10 years old at the time, and I said, how do I explain it to him? And if I can explain it to him, I can explain it to the world. And the only way I could explain it was I asked my son how long it would take him to count to 1 billion. And if he were to count every second a number, when would he arrive? And of course, being 10 years old, he said, in an hour, Dad, I'll do it. And I said, okay, if in an hour you're done, ice cream is on me. The real answer is he would have spent 33 years of his life counting to 1 billion. So 1 trillion is a huge, huge number. Okay? So that is the cost of undernutrition. Now, what is the real cost of undernutrition? Let us go to the next slide, please. And that's where we're looking at hunger zero. And the challenge. We're looking, as Secretary Dinky said, the issue of stunting. And we want to reduce that for children below the age of 2 to 0. Let there be no children who are stunted. How do we do that? We can do that if we accept the challenge that 100% access to adequate food. And we'll talk about what is adequate food and how do we get to adequate food. The third one, and you heard her saying that towards the end of her presentation, was all food systems are sustainable. She said it's not enough to have food on the table. So we need to have a system which enables us to address the other issues. Education, health, and all of those are affected by sustainable food systems. We need to increase the productivity as one of the elements, and the program she was mentioning, we just launched together, and we're getting to it, and a zero waste of food or loss of food. I come from India. Our food grain reserves are probably one of the larger ones in the world. But we also have a huge loss. Now, the World Food Program purchases on the market, we're one of the biggest purchasers on the market of food commodities. We purchase in excess of 2 million tons of food annually. And we can only reach about 80, 90 million people. In India, we lose more than double that in losses due to inadequate warehousing, inadequate transport, spoilage. Yeah? So just imagine what that last one means. And the way I always tell my children, you leave something on the table, it's coming out of your pocket money. So eat it. Next, please. So how does World Food Program address the first two? Children, 0 children under the age of 2 to be stunted. We have programs in nutrition, and we have programs through school meals. If we can get to the children soon enough, we can address the issue of nutrition. We can be there in that formative period. We can ensure a healthy human being. To address that, and that's why I have this slide up here, which is of, unfortunately, of a child, 2 children at the age of 3 who perished. You can see the size in the brain of a normal child and a child suffering from malnutrition. That is irreversible after the age of 3. If that happens, there is that shrinkage. So if you think of a watermelon and it becomes an orange, it's not that the child is slow, is stupid, or anything like that. It's just that they've had bad nutrition. They still are normal in the sense within commas, but they have suffered. And this is the reason. They don't have the connections in the brain. Yeah, the neurons, they don't have the sufficient ones. So a lot of us have heard when we go to the field, my son, the school really isn't for him, but he's great with his hands. He can fix anything. He can work like a horse. He can work like 10 men together. That's what's happened. Unfortunately, at a young age, that child did not have the right nutrition. As a result, higher costs in education, more children in schools, overcrowded schools, not enough teachers to teach those things, higher health bill. Growing up, they get married in the same group and have the cycle begins again. Less jobs. Next. We have also found, and this is a scientific study done by Harold Elderman, where he looks at the linkages between poverty reduction and child nutrition. And it's very interesting if you look. If we reduce poverty, we will reduce malnutrition. There is no doubt about it. So through growth, we will achieve it. Okay? But look what he found. That if we reduce malnutrition by 1%, we can actually reduce poverty by 4%. So there is a 1-to-4 relationship. And if we do that, then, or if we concentrate on that, what are we really saying? What we're really saying is, I guess the best way to say is that if we concentrate on inclusive growth, and that growth is only through economic growth, yeah, in terms of malnutrition, we will require an extra generation of time. Yeah, one additional generation will have to pass, 25 years, before we can achieve that thing. So it's not one or the other. We need to do it jointly. We need to leverage our resources. So therefore, food and nutrition security, and as Secretary Soliman said, it's not just about production. It's not just about producing it. It is about access. Do we have the financial access to food, economic access to food, and do we have the physical access to food? There are many parts of the Philippines that produce enough food. But it is also in those same communities that you will find malnutrition. How is that possible? Well, the farmer probably took a loan. And so even before he had the harvest, he's already lost it. So he doesn't have the physical access to food, even though he's grown it. And the last one, the use of food, you need to be able to have the right food at the right time and in the right quantity. If you don't, then you will have other elements. Next. So what is WFP doing in that respect? So if we're looking at emergencies, as Secretary Dinky very elaborately went into, and I will not, is the issue of emergencies. But if we look at the other three elements, support to small farmers, food and cash assets, so innovation, not invention. We're not inventing. We're innovating. How do we do something better? Yeah? How do we do something better? And for that, we need to look at the world slightly differently. What we need is a change in a paradigm. It's a paradigm shift. Classically, in the classical model, we have been looking towards getting activities. We now need to look beyond, Secretary Dinky said, beyond. And that is, now we need to start looking at results. Activities aren't enough. Are we achieving the results? We need to do things not the way we've always done them. You know, it's very easy. Why do you do? We've always done it that way. Well, wake up. Let's do it new. Let's be more smarter. Let's use technology. The cell phone. We can reach those remote areas. So normally we talk about assistance and participation. Let's talk about empowerment and ownership. And Secretary Dinky said it very well in the sense that it needs to be the communities, it needs to be the municipal governments, it needs to be the provincial governments, it needs to be the national government. So there needs to be ownership, and women need to be at the center of it. Next. Just very quickly, go on, the next one. So when we're addressing the issue of hunger, if I were to eat bananas, rice, corn, and what else is there, potato, yuca, whatever, have I eaten anything? No. I'm not hungry, but I haven't eaten anything. It's pure carbohydrate. You need to have a balanced meal. So we need to look at a balanced meal. You're going to get a balanced meal if you're healthy and if you have education. It's a thing. And that is why, how do we achieve all of this? And I'm going to now quickly go because I have very little time, is I'm really glad to see that we have Senator Grace Poe here and we have Secretary Soliman. Two branches of the nation, the legislative and the executive body. And the two bodies need to work together to achieve food and nutrition security. We need to ensure that there is a political will, and where there is a will, there's got to be a commitment. And in that commitment, we need to see that this is being reflected. And if you look, all of you look at the post-2015 development agenda, you will see it figuring as a top priority. The world is changing and we need to change with it. So we need to look at beyond just production. We need to look at the transfer of knowledge. We need to look at healthy diets. We need to look at building stronger local food systems. We need to connect farms to schools and schools to communities. And this is what Secretary Soliman was talking about with the daycare centers and the farmers and the programs that we are doing. Next. Just one back. And so in that working together, in that collaborative one, you can see there is place for everybody. This is not seeking exclusivity. It is inclusive growth. We need to be all part of that process. Next, we just jump all the typhoon ones, please. And keep going. We have a 2-minute video, 1-minute video. So I just want to just say in summary, if you allow me this video. So, in resume, in summary, we believe at World Food Program that hunger is the world's greatest solvable problem. Yes, we can solve it, and we must solve it if we wish to have a healthy, productive global community. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Praveen. You made us understand the very, very complex problem, and I think everyone here in the room appreciates that given this complex problem, there's really a need for collaboration.